All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. So, I'm Andrew, aka First Cause Mindgasms, for the purposes of this video, and I'm going to start a new series on a book by the medieval Jewish scholar slash philosopher named Maimonides, and it's basically going to go through the first part of it, which is in which he is talking about Aristotle's argument for first cause argument for the existence of God. And Maimonides was he with this book, he it's one of the seminal works of medieval philosophy and religion, and he was basically reconciling Aristotelian philosophy with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So there are a lot of really fascinating philosophical arguments, even though, like I've said in my last few videos, I personally am not myself religious, but I'm more interested in religions of various kinds than I used to be because there are some very interesting philosophical arguments for them. All right, so let's get into some of the essay here. I'm going to get into my notes on this first part here, which is about Aristotle's first cause argument for the existence of God. All right, so I'm going to explain this argument and kind of poke holes in it along the way, I think, because I think that the logic of this argument is not very sound. All right, anyway, here we go. So, one simple being must be the cause of the existence of the universe, which is one whole. Okay, first of all, what is he basing that on? That's already in what Kant would call a synthetic a priori claim, meaning that it's basically essentially a faith claim, and he's just stating that this is inherently true. Okay, also, so one simple being must be the cause of the existence of the universe, which is one whole. This is true whether the first cause already existed with the creation of the universe, or whether the universe was created by the first cause because the universe is one whole. So I'm not quoting everything verbatim here. Some stuff is basically paraphrasing, but that's essentially the argument is a nutshell, which is quite obviously a tautology. So that's why this, like, essentially one of the many reasons for why I think Aristotle's first cause argument for the existence of God is wrong, because it's just filled with logical contradictions and tautologies and just bad logic, philosophically speaking. And a lot of you have probably heard me talk before about how, I'm not a rationalist or anything, and I don't deify logic like some militant atheists like Sam Harris. But in terms of philosophy and making arguments for that are supposed to prove the existence of something just based on an argument, it's not a very good argument. Anyway, so it is true that the existence that one simple being must be the cause of the existence of the universe, which is one whole, whether the universe was created by the first cause, or the first cause already existed before the creation of the universe, because the universe is one whole. You see how that's circular logic there? All right, so what he's talking about also, which I'll get to a little bit here, but more so in subsequent videos, are basically what he gets into, which is um, competing theories of the eternity of the universe as well, and Aristotle's idea of the eternity of the universe, which is that I think he leans more in the direction that the first cause already existed with the existence of the universe. And the competing theory to this that is mentioned in the book is creatio ex nihilo, which I'm not sure what the Latin translation is for that, but it basically means that the universe and God existed at the same time, rather than that God existed before the universe and was the first cause that created the universe. The universe and God came into existence at the same time. All right. So, and yeah, we'll get into that more later. So, and then he says, this cause must undoubtedly be God. Again, that's a synthetic a priori claim, which is basically essentially a faith claim. He's not giving any reason for why this first cause must undoubtedly be God. Why, even if he's right that the universe is one whole with his circular logic explanation, that the universe is one whole, and the first cause is the existence of the universe, then it still doesn't even logically follow from that this first cause must undoubtedly be God. Like, why does God have to be the first cause? You're not really, you're kind of just assuming that this is true without actually explaining it. Anyway, so this cause must undoubtedly be God. We can prove the existence of God from the effect of the universe being one whole. You see how this is just logically flawed all the way down? So therefore, since he's wrong in each step of his assertion, he's wrong in his conclusion too. And I know, like, some people would say, oh, you're criticizing Aristotle, this great philosopher. He is a great philosopher. He has lots of great ideas. But like every philosopher, he has some great ideas and some ideas that are just philosophically dumb. So, and like I've said in previous videos, I am barely even an atheist anymore. If I am, I'm certainly not a militant one. So I think that there's nothing wrong with people believing in God, but using Aristotle's first cause argument as your explanation for the existence of God is a very bad one. Okay, so the second step of this part of the book related to Aristotle's first cause argument is his assertion that every corporeal object is constituted of matter and form. This is, of course, another, as Kant would say, synthetic a priori claim, or what I call a synthetic a priori faith claim. So he's just asserting that this is inherently true without any explanation for it. So again, based on this synthetic a priori claim, Aristotle goes on from asserting that every corporeal object is constituted of matter and form. Like, what are these, like, why are they constituted of matter and form? How are they constituted of matter and form? I mean, this seems self-evident, but that doesn't mean that it actually is evident or true. Okay, anyway, he goes on from there to say every one of these combinations of of matter and form that constitute a corporeal object, he says, every one of these combinations must be caused by an agent providing a cause for them. So, following along with his argument, every corporeal object constituted of matter and form was caused by an agent. So an agent has to have caused every corporeal object constituted of matter and form. Again, this is all just based on synthetic a priori faith claims, but this is why I respect this kind of thing, because this argument has many layers and it's very sophisticated, even though the conclusion doesn't really make any philosophical or logical sense. So it is evident that the body is divisible and has dimensions. It is more evident that the body is subject to accidents. If you say evident, meaning that you can observe it, I would agree with that. The body is divisible and has dimensions. I don't know where he's getting the idea that is more evident that the body is subject to accidents. I'm not sure whether you can really say one way or the other whether that's true or false. But anyway, then he goes on to say, nothing corporeal can be a unity, either because everything corporeal is divisible, or because it is a compound which can logically be analyzed into two elements. So he's basically saying that nothing corporeal can be a unity because it is divisible, or because it can be reduced to two separate elements. So he's basically saying nothing corporeal can be a unity because it can be everything corporeal can be divided into two separate parts. But that doesn't necessarily follow either, that because like everything corporeal is divisible, it is not a unity because it can be divided into two separate parts. But the separate parts can be reattached, presumably. It's not like, and and it doesn't necessarily mean that because it's separated into more than one thing, it wasn't one thing to begin with. He hasn't explained that or proved that in any way, shape, or form. So, and then he goes on from there to say, and if he's meaning matter and form, then anything corporeal is not a unity because it's constituted of matter and form. Then that's again just going back to another a priori synthetic a priori faith claim for the basis of his argument. So neither of these layers are correct, but again, they're very interesting ones. And then he goes on to say a body can only be said to be a certain body when the distinguishing element is added to the corporeal substratum and must therefore include two elements. He's basically just restating what he said already there. This admits of no dualism, even though, and I put in brackets, even though it sounds like it does. So yeah, I think it does sound like dualism because he's talking about how everything corporeal is constituted of matter and form. And if you're talking about matter and form, then matter is related to materialism and how matter is separate from forms, like the physical body, and a materialist world, a materialist universe is separate from your form. And if we're talking about Aristotle, we could connect that to Plato's realm of forms, perhaps, which is basically, if he means that, then Aristotle's basically meaning that everything corporeal is constituted of the physical and the metaphysical. If that's what he means by matter and form, I think he does go into that more. But yeah, we don't need to get any more into dualism in general. But that's basically philosophy of mind that we've gotten into a little bit more recently in terms of my videos on the Mormon apostle Orson Pratt believing in a materialist universe, and how that's similar to the atheist Sam Harris, who also believes in the materialist universe. So in terms of philosophy of mind, they're both materialists, but while Sam Harris is an atheist, Orson Pratt is a Mormon. And in terms of philosophy of mind, if we're talking about matter and form, it's kind of similar to like matter and mind, this classic dualist division, meaning that the body and the mind are separate, which has been debated in philosophy of mind since before Aristotle's time, even back to before the pre-Socratic. So anyway, we don't need to, like I said, we don't need to get that far into philosophy of mind specifically, but I think this is interesting because I really am interested in philosophy because I like poking holes in really sophisticated philosophical arguments rather than low-hanging fruit. And I'm going to try to keep doing that more and more because it seems like people really like that, which is awesome because I love investigating philosophy more. And yeah, that's why basically in a nutshell, why I think Aristotle's first cause argument for the existence of God is wrong and does not prove God's existence is that it's filled with logical contradictions and holes, and it's based on tautologies and synthetic a priori claims or faith claims. So he's not actually demonstrating or proving through argument any one of his claims, because every explanation he uses for each layer of his argument that he thinks is a well-founded argument is just just basically philosophically bankrupt. And like I said, I definitely have respect for Aristotle and agree with some of what he says. But just like with every philosopher, I like some of what they say, and I dislike other of what they say. And so I agree or disagree more or less depending on the philosopher. And with Aristotle, I still need to investigate his work more. And it's definitely worth investigating because he's one of the most famous philosophers in the entirety of human history, of course, right? And I'm going to continue this Maimonides series because I think people seem to find it interesting when I talk about philosophy, and particularly philosophy of religion as well. And I want to get more into investigating different religions. And this is basically kind of more of a Jewish approach to religion, because, like I said, Maimonides was a medieval Jewish philosopher and scholar. And it's very important to mention too that in this book, Maimonides is, I would consider him an Aristotelian Jewish guy, because he actually believes in and supports Aristotle's first cause argument for the existence of God. So that's important to remember too. It's my disagreement that the first cause argument for the existence of God is a good one. Maimonides accepted it and used it to support his basically his philosophical Jewish beliefs through the scripture of the Talmud, and also talked about that in terms of the Bible, and I think the Quran as well in terms of Islam. All right, so anyway, thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed this other newest philosophical deep dive. I will keep doing a series on this one. Check out my other series, the one on Orson Pratt's book, Absurdities of Immaterialism, and the clip from that, in which I was talking about how Orson Pratt and Sam Harris are both materialists, so they agree on something at least. Check those out. And this weekend, either tomorrow or Sunday, check out my book chat that I'm going to do with my friend Dusty, who I always do podcasts with, about Wizard and Glass, which is book 4 in Stephen King's Dark Tower series, which is kind of a fantasy western slash sci-fi fantasy slash horror book, or a series rather, and this one is more of a flashback and more of a western one, I would say, since the first one. uh, and 2 and 3 are not as much, but anyway, yeah, check all that stuff out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share this everywhere. Smash that like button. Share all these awesome mindgasms everywhere with all your friends and everyone you know. Click that bell to be notified when I come out with new videos. Check out my Patreon page. The link is in the description as always. And like I always say, most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And Aristotle's first cause argument for the existence of God rather. Aristotle's first cause argument for the existence of God is wrong, but very interesting and philosophically sophisticated. And Maimonides both agrees and disagrees with some Aristotelian arguments, which I think are interesting, whether I agree or disagree with them. And I agree and disagree with some of many of the arguments. All right, thanks again, everyone, and adios until next time.